And we're here. Yay! All right, so we are here. We are for Sew Together Tuesday. Sorry, it's all a little jumbly today. Hi, Tava. Tava's with us today. We're going to get to that in just a second. It's Sew Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics. And we are excited to be here. We have a special guest, which means that our technology thing is a little crazy today. He's pointing at her. There we go. That's our special guest. So the technology is a little wonky. So we're going to work through it. If you can't hear us or something goes a little weird, just hang on. Let us know in the comments. We'll try to figure things out.
So far,
okay?
so good. Everybody
Okay.
seems to think we're good.
Good, good. All right. So I have with me today Tava Singer from, you may know her from Cali Quilt Co., but she is also the designer of a new product that we want to talk about called Block Barn Designs, printed interfacing patterns, all of the Block Barn design stuff. So we're going to talk to you. So Tava, I'm going to let you introduce it, and then we can also talk about the giveaway, because also if you share this video, you're going to get a prize. Well, you'll be eligible to win a prize at the end. We'll have two prizes that we'll give away. We're going to give away some fabric. And Tava, what are you doing?
I'm giving away one of my bundles, and you'll get to pick, and I'll talk about them here in a minute, but you'll get to pick. I have 3 different bundles of product to get you started on your Block Barn journey.
Yay, I'm so excited. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what is Block Barn Designs, what is it that you have, and why do we want to use it?
Okay. Years before I owned a quilt shop, I was a loyal Shannon Fabrics customer, a retail customer, because it was the best product by far. I went to a quilt shop by my mom's house. That's when I first found this product, and I've been sold ever since. But the issue we all have, if you sew with Cuddle, is that we all end up with scraps and leftover pieces of fabric that I like to call plush gold because none of us will throw it away. Like, right? But it's something that you can see right now as I'm picking it up. Like there can be little bits of Cuddle fluff. And so it's a hard thing. What do you do with it? So we all take plastic bags and we jam our scraps in them, and then we put them in a closet out of the way. And then we start putting them under beds, and we start hiding all of our scraps. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And every time I tell this to someone that doesn't sew with Cuddle yet, they'll always laugh. They're like, that's not true. I go, talk to anybody who sews, and they will. They'll go ask them, hey, do you have a bag of Cuddle scraps? And they're like, yes, I have 3. You know, and they're like, but I don't know what to do
because
with it.
you know it's valuable. It's usable. It costs you money. Like I want to be able to use it, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yes, and so that's why I created Block Barn. I did it really. I kept asking Shannon Fabrics to create it because I didn't want to do it. I just want someone to do it for me. But, you know, they're busy running an empire. So I got around to it. And so I started, it's this printed interfacing, and it's fusible on one side where you feel like this bumpy side, and then it's printed on one side, or we have plain, and they work together. And what it does is it takes when I have scraps from backing a quilt, or I've made a self-binding blanket and I cut some off, I cut all my scraps now into 10-inch pieces. I roll them up, and then just at a big box store or online, you can buy those little clear elastic hair ties. And that's what I do. So this is how I organize my scraps now. Oh. And so now I get piles of grays put together. And as I have enough, then I have enough where I can make a pillow without buying any fabric, or I might buy a piece of fabric for the back, but it's where I can use my scraps. And the more textures you put in, the better. And so I'm going to show just a couple of little samples. So one of them, let me show this.
Okay, Jeremy, can you just show her so we can see this bigger?
I don't know if you could see that. This is just some scraps I had from making a couple of little baby. I had this. And so when I had these scraps from baby blankets, I'm like, what am I going to do with all this pink, right? Well, I fused my interfacing on the back, which Teresa's going to show you how to do, but some of it is printed and some of it is plain. They work together. You sew them together, and what it does is it takes the stretch out of it. You can sew pieces of fabric together, and you can sew pieces of Cuddle together, but as you know, it'll stretch as you sew. So when you're trying to piece something, if you start with a 9-inch square, Sometimes it's 9 inches on one piece by the time you get to the bottom, and the other piece will be 9.5. Sometimes it starts at 9 and it's 9.5 and 10. And if you're a quilter at all, this makes our brain, like it blows our brain in a bad way. Okay. It breaks us. And so this product takes that stretch out of it and lets you piece it where you start with a 9-inch square and you end with a 9-inch square, and like angels sing. And so that's what I think is so great about it. And then now we've come up with some patterns. I love barn quilts. I love them. It's one of my favorite things, driving, and you get to see all those barn quilts. It's so beautiful. And that's really where this came from. And that's why I call it block barn. So original. Okay. Barn block, block barn. But it's because it can go together very similar to all those barn quilts, because it's really a bunch of half square triangles and squares. And that's what block barn is too. And so I'll be showing a couple more samples, but the big thing is you need 2 things to work together for block barn. First, you're going to have your scraps, or we have kits. If you want to just start with a kit and not think about it, you can get a kit, or get your patterns and go to your local quilt shop and go buy your pieces there too. And this is where
and each pattern will tell you how many different fabrics you need, right?
It will, and it'll tell you how many different 10-inch strips, because this way you can do it. And I encourage you, if you back tons of quilts in gray and you have so much gray, but you're like, oh, I want some colors, put your strips together like this and trade with your friends. Like, get them together, have little block barn parties and trade some scraps back and forth. But you're going to need an unprinted fusible. So this is very similar to using a Shapeflex SF101. The difference, though, is that I have mine manufactured here in the US. And by putting this together at 60 inches wide, and you get 2 yards in a package, our sale price is less than $3 a yard compared to when you buy 20-inch wide. This is 3 times as wide.
And I was going to say, that was the thing that made a difference for me, is that being 60 inches wide makes it so much easier. So much easier to do it.
Get a big piece fused. And then we have our printed. And so they work together. You use less printed than you use of the plain. And so we did that intentionally. It's, I'm a cost saver. I want to get the biggest bang for my buck, especially when I'm using all my scraps. I want to stretch my dollars. And so that's totally how I designed this. I designed it as a consumer. Like, how do I use my scraps? How do I make something beautiful and new without spending a lot of money? This was the way that I did it. And so I was excited to bring this product to market. So I want to show a couple things. Behind me, I have a block barn quilt, and Teresa has some more pictures that I sent her from our Camp Cuddle, which I'll talk about in a minute. Super fun. And it wasn't just cuddly, like we were sewing cuddle, but I love that name. But to start with a quilt, it feels like a lot when you're learning a new product. And so that's why we came up with some pillow patterns that makes this big, huge pillow. And Teresa's going to show a sample.
That's what's behind me too.
And these
so
pillows,
you can see it's a big guy.
And I love this as a floor cushion. I grew up in a really big family, so I'm still considered one of the kids. I'm 48, right? And I'm still when my whole family's together, I'm on the floor, and I'm 48. So it's one of those things. I like having floor cushions because the carpet and the floor is a little rough on this body now. And so I love floor cushions for that reason. You always have that extra seating. Put it in a game room for the kids. Put it in their bedroom. If they like to play video games. But it's also, this one here is my dog's bed, because he's spoiled with cuddle because,
That's exactly what we were talking about when I made this one. We were like, it's totally ready to be a pet bed. Like, absolutely. And washable.
Yes. Oh, it's washable because it's cuddle, and it washes for years beautifully. Again, I was a consumer long before a shop owner, but we also designed this so that you can put in either a zipper or Velcro. And so when you open these babies up, and Teresa will be showing you, I've got it really Velcroed good. Well done, me. But it actually just fits 2 king-size pillows. So it fits 2 king-size pillows. So it's actually really affordable to stuff too, because if you've ever had to stuff something big, it costs money buying all that stuffing to fill it up. And so, she put the zipper in. I love it. So we'll give you the instructions for both using the zipper or the Velcro. We include that with all the patterns. But it's fun. Did I cover it all? You want to see a couple other things? Let me see.
I think so. Yeah, go ahead and show us a couple other things, and then we'll show the pictures from Camp Cuddle. So what have you got there?
So here's another pillow. I just want to show what we do with all these scraps. Here's
Yeah, and I
neutrals.
love the variation of fabrics that are in there. I think that that's the super cool part is you can do it where you have 3 or 4 fabrics and you could just totally change it and have a whole bunch of
Oh,
fabrics.
good. Yeah, here's another one here. I love this one too.
Oh, that one's really pretty.
So it's a fun way to use up your scraps and to be able to make something new and get those scraps out of the bags, out of the closets. Then you have more
Yes,
space to add more cuddle. Here's one more that I just did in
exactly.
blues.
Exactly. Oh, with the sparkle. That's very
Yeah.
pretty. So the project that we're doing today is the pillow, which you were saying is like
Mhm.
the easier way to start with, and we're going to start with just like a 4 patch to show that today. But you
Yep.
can make quilts, and that's what you did at Camp Cuddle, right?
We did. So we did a camp of just cuddle fabric. That's all we sewed for 5 days in Lake Tahoe. And we're going to now have some shorter ones, 3 days here at my shop in California. We're in the
Very
Sacramento
cool.
area until other shops around the country start having camp cuddle because they all need
Okay, so
to.
how do they
But
find out about that?
so I will come post in your I Love Cuddle group after the live stream. How's that? So I'll
Great.
post about it. But yeah, even you can fly in. We're even going to do a virtual event too, so that if you don't want to fly in, although come visit us, we're fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's
come
totally
see us.
true.
But otherwise, we will totally do a virtual one and show you. But we teach you all the things Teresa teaches you. But you'll be working on either one of my machines or your machine. So we'll help you
Oh,
because
very cool.
sometimes it's fun to be like in person and have someone say, "Why is this happening?" and show you how
Hmm.
to fix it. So that's what we do at
Yeah,
Camp Cuddle. But we made tons of projects. Everybody went home with boxes full of holiday gifts this year.
that's
It was really
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
Jeremy, will you pop those up? We have 3 little things to show. So these are some of the different ones that you did. So tell us about each of these a little, Tava.
So these are some of my different quilt patterns. And so all of these quilts finish at 64 by 64, unless you want to add on and make them bigger. But this is all Block Barn where we give you the pattern, or we have the pattern for sale, I should say, where it'll tell you how many strips you need of cuddle. And then you're going to fuse your interfacing. You cut it up just like the pattern says, and you sew it together. And so this is where you can like one of these and want different colors. And so put those colors in. Use some of your scraps or buy new. You
Very
can
cool.
try something and not like it and trade it out.
I really love how different these are. So they're all just a little different. Like I like the jumping fish. Let's see one of the other ones, Jeremy. So then we have 2 of the boho stars, and I put those in there because I really liked how different they look. Even though it's the same pattern, it's just the fabric.
Yes, we had
So it
5
makes a big
people at camp
difference.
do boho and all different. These were all customer picks. All of this, the customers picked their fabric.
That's
This was
awesome.
not something I curated. It was so fun to see what people put together for colors. It's really fun.
That's very cool. Is there one more? Yeah, there we go. And that naughty star on the left, I think, is my favorite.
I
It's
love that.
really
Plus, I love the
cool.
name. It's so funny. But yeah, the
It
naughty
is
star.
funny.
That is, and that only takes 3 colors. 3 colors.
Yeah,
If you don't like to make lots of decisions, that's a great one to start with.
right. And like that would be an easy one to start with if you wanted to actually like buy the fabric for it in specific colors or fabrics that you wanted to use. You could go ahead and get that and use that. So all of those patterns are available at caliquiltco.com. And if you,
Yes.
I know I searched for Block Barn Designs, and then it just came right to all the patterns and the interfacing and all that stuff.
Yes, and we even put a tab at the top since we knew we were going to be on today's show. So if you go to
Great.
caliquiltco.com, the first tab you see is going to say Block Barn Designs. That'll show you. And I have 3 different bundles. Sometimes I get decision fatigue. I don't know if you do. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I
Yeah.
need. I don't know what I want. So I made 3 different bundles. One comes in a black bag. And you're going to get in each, I'll show all 3 first. The next one comes in a blue bag. And then I have one that comes in a purple bag. And what you get in each of these is you get a printed interfacing, you're going to get a plain interfacing, and then you're going to get 3 patterns. So 3 pillow patterns that you can choose. And so you can go online later and shop and look at them and see which patterns come. But that's how we did it, just to make it easy. Otherwise, everything's listed separately. You can do that as well.
So that's the same package that they'll get if they win at the end of the show, right?
Yes,
That
if they
same
win at the end of the
bundle.
show, if you have a preference, you tell me which one. And if you don't tell me which one you want, I'll send you the black one. That was my first
Okay.
bundle. Yeah.
That sounds great. Okay. So if you are interested in it and you don't win, they are available otherwise to be able to
Yes.
buy, which is super cool. And then I know you put them on sale for us today.
We put everything on sale for Block Barn so that you don't need to have a code. We just thought that
Very
that would be
cool.
easier because, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's get started on the project. Thank you so much for joining me,
Thank
Tava. I really
you.
appreciate it. This has been great.
Thank you.
And I love
Yes.
hearing the other side of it and how it started and why it's happening. So thank you so
Yes.
much.
You
All
bet.
right,
Have a
we'll see
great
you
day.
later.
Thanks.
Bye. All right. See if we can mute ourselves here. There we go. Okay. So now we're back. That's kind of fun. So we've actually visited Cali Quilt Co. I think 3 or 4 times now. We've been out to her shop, and it's a great one. Like she said, out in the Sacramento area. And this project, you might have seen it if you're part of the I Love Cuddle group. There was a whole flurry of them getting posted right after the Camp Cuddle, and I was like, oh, we should probably do something about this. So it took me a little while, but we finally got to it. So today I want to show you really how you use the product, just to demonstrate it a little bit, talk about moving it around. If you're a quilter, some of this is going to be stuff you already know. If you are a craft sewist, some of it might be a little bit new. So like she said, there's 2 different kinds of products, and it comes like this. So here's my package. It is a 45 by 80 inch piece that I get in here. This is printed with the half square triangle printed on it. I'll turn that around so the name is right. Okay. And it comes with a big chunk of this. So you get several strips of it, plenty to do more than one pillow. Okay. If you want to do the quilt, I think it takes one of these, but it'll tell you in the pattern. And then she has a whole bunch of patterns, and the patterns come, they're made specifically for Minky. So they work great with the cuddle. The patterns are all there. It tells you a whole bunch of stuff to do. One of the things that I really liked is she tells you how to lay it out, but also gives you the opportunity back here to color it yourself, and then put little tabs of color markings in here. And you could do this with, colored pencil or with actual pieces of fabric to keep track of what goes where. All right, so you can color this. I did this just with the colors that we used in ours, basically the colors that we used. And you could see how vastly different these 2 look, depending on how you lay it out and where the colors go. So I want you to really take the time, and especially if you're new to patchwork, then you're going to want to really kind of take some time to play with that, see what the colors do when you move it around. We did it too when we got it on the floor. So we made all the pieces and I moved things around. And you'll notice that so I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if we can come around and show this. So if you look at the pattern here, it has the square here, and I turned it upside down. Okay. So in the pattern, my half square triangles go this way.
Got it. Yeah, her version is almost an Ohio block, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like an Ohio star. Yeah, very similar. So
Ohio thumb approved.
I think it might be kind of like Missouri star too. Like there's all the different states. So anyway, so I switched it around because I was like, I want to do it this way instead. And you absolutely can. So that's kind of the joy of this, is it's a lot like quilt making, that you're like, oh, this is how I want it. And then you get it out there and then you're like, I kind of want to change my mind. So it's great in that regard. And I really had a fun time trying to put this together. So you're going to follow along with the instructions, and she's going to tell you how big of a piece to cut and how many squares of the printed interfacing you're going to need. And then she'll tell you how much of the unprinted interfacing you're going to need. You'll cut the same size for different pieces, because as she showed you, you're going to have one side that's unprinted and one side that's printed. They're going to go together. All right, so follow the instructions carefully, really look at them. So one of the things that she does too is that you mark it. Let's do this. Let's iron this on first, and then I'll explain that. So we're going to say that this one, I need 2 of these squares. So we're going to imagine that in my pattern, I need 2 of these. And in this pattern, there is one that we need 2 of them. Okay, so I've cut out my squares out of that big chunk of interfacing. I've got my 2 squares, and I'm going to iron this onto the back of my cuddle. All right, you need to come around?
I am.
All right. So one of the things, let me see if I can get my iron to get back warm. Okay, I'm going to put this on here.
Is that your awesome Eliso robot?
It is my awesome Eliso robot
iron.
It's
All right,
pretty good.
Talk about it. Do you touch it?
It's pretty cool. No little legs go
Is that
up.
really not going to do that for me right now?
There we go.
There they go.
It's probably because you were holding it not in a way that you would normally hold it.
Yeah.
Because it has something to do with where you pick it up. Anyway, I love this iron. I really do. It's super great. So I have it set on the wool silk setting, kind of at the top of it. So it'll be a little bit warmer to melt all of this. With the interfacing, I really want it to stay on it forever. Like I want it to melt onto it and stay. So I need to get that glue a little bit warmer. So one of the things that we're going to do, and she talks about this in the pattern, there's instructions for it, is we're going to use a pressing cloth and some liquid, some water. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put this over it. And you can use a damp cloth, like you put it in your sink, wring it out real good, and use it. I just go ahead and spritz it. And then one of the things we want to do is we want to spray it enough so that it's damp, and then we'll actually put this on here until it's dry. And then we know we've gotten enough on there. So it's kind of a way of just keeping track. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is just pressing this.
As opposed to ironing.
Yes. So we're not going to run it back and forth. We're just going to press. And I'm kind of counting, but I'm not really because I'm talking at the same time. But normally I'll count to like 6 and then I'll move it and then I'll come back over and do it again. So I just try to hold it on here for a few seconds and move it. In my experience, I have preferred not to hold it on there for too long, and I'd rather go over it twice.
Would steam work?
Well, this is what it's doing.
I mean,
it's
right,
steaming.
but if you just didn't have the wet pressing cloth and you just used the steam in the iron?
It doesn't work as nicely.
Okay.
No, and it doesn't protect it. So the pressing cloth actually like kind of puts a little bit of a barrier in there, but you can see where it's dry and where it's still a little damp. So we're just going to go over it and press it.
I'm going to address Tina. Hey, Tina. I am the googly eye bandit, and I have been sworn off of adding any more googly eyes to the set. Are we disappointed? I'm disappointed.
He does love the googly eyes. It's true. So I'm just going to go ahead and press this the whole way. I'll tell you, if you do what we were talking about, as like ironing it and running it back and forth before you do this, what happens is you distort your interfacing. So we want to try, because we're going to use these as cutting lines, we want to keep them as straight as possible. Okay, so does that make sense that if I run this back and forth and it gets like weird, I no longer have straight lines?
Got it.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this again, make sure all of that gets dry. Okay, I'm just pressing and making sure that it's stuck, because we're going to cut this apart and we really do want it to stick. If it comes apart once it's in your quilt, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a little bit loose on the back of your blocks and no one will be the wiser.
That actually does bring up that helps to address a question about spray-based.
Yes. Yeah, so we had talked about spray basting. You could, but it doesn't lend the same stability to it that actually the iron-on interfacing does. So the spray-based one is much more likely to come off while you're sewing it and working with all these different things. This will stay on there for good. All right, so let's come back over here. So now I'm going to have, let me move all my little papers so I don't cut all this up. Okay, and if there's any questions, please shout them out, because obviously I can't see them.
There was a question, and it's basically, well, Tava definitely answered it in the comments, but we're going to answer it on air. What's the seam allowance for this project? It's actually a quarter of an inch.
Quarter of an inch, which seems crazy, but is totally true.
Normally, a half an inch has to do with making sure that Cuddle is not as stable as you would like it to be.
It's a knit fabric,
right?
So yeah,
but this stabilizes it enough that your quarter inches are
and makes
fine.
It work much more like a cotton fabric. So we've done this before with other projects, and I do it with interfacing, applique, where we put interfacing on the back to make it more stable, so that as we're working with it, it works more like cotton fabric and less like a knit, which has all sorts of wiggle in it. Okay, so once we've gotten these on, this is going to be my piece for the other side. And she explains in the pattern that you're going to want to mark the pattern according to, it'll tell you what you want to mark each one of them, but you're going to want to mark your fabric. So we're going to say that these are the A blocks. Okay. And then we're going to put these with the B blocks. And I'm going to mark these basically in the same areas so that when I cut these apart, I'll have those lines on there. Okay, this is, let me show This is what she's talking about. Here. Okay, so label it. This is what we're doing. So we're going to label them. All right. I totally did that backwards. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be a square. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut this first. And this is where normally when we're dealing with Luxe Cuddle, I would cut it with the blade, but we're going to cut all of this with a rotary cutter. So this will be messier because you can't really do this with the blade. So we're just going to do it with the rotary cutter, and then I'll clean up the mess. So I will say that the first time that I did this, I was not super careful about pressing this down, and my lines definitely wobbled. So I'm going to try. I tried harder this time to get my lines straight, and I can tell by my ruler that they're pretty darn straight, which is great. Okay, so I will say that trying to get them square is more important than getting them right on the line. So I'm going to make sure that it's going to come up straight from the bottom. So I'm going to line up this line of my ruler with the edge of the fabric, make sure that it's going to go straight here. So I'm not going to try to follow that line out just a little bit. I'm just getting it straight. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay, try it again over here.
My silence is I was reading the comments.
Got it. I figured you probably had been paying attention. It's okay.
There's a great question there. So the heat from the iron, it won't hurt the cuddle?
Let's see. Did it hurt the cuddle?
No. No, it did not. Especially from the back, and especially with a pressing cloth, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So that's part of using the pressing cloth, is to protect it from the heat. The other thing is we don't iron it from the front. So if you iron it from the front, you're going to be in trouble, and you're much more likely to have it melt and do dumb things. But we're not gonna do that. In
particular, the embossing, what we call the embossing on the fabric, which is when the nap changes direction in an intended way, is heat set into the fabric. So that's what is likely to change.
Right.
When it's not necessarily going to melt, but it will take the heat set out of the embossing.
It will. Okay, so you will notice I am very carefully moving things around. Okay, and it's really because as soon as I lift this up, all the stuff starts falling off. Okay, so I don't really want to move it around too much. And as I was spinning it very slowly and carefully. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead, and where it happened to the vacuum?
I had it here and on the charger last night, and now
it was here this morning. I used it a bunch.
Okay.
So it got, well, never mind. I'm not going to use the vacuum. Don't have to mute me. I'm just going to flick it on the floor.
We're going to show it.
Not terrible. Look at that. Yeah.
It's raining cuddle dust.
It is. All right. So now I've got these. I'm going to put those aside. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut these. So in here, she'll tell you how big to cut the squares. And it's really important that you pay attention to that. They're going to be the same size as this one here for this one here. Yeah, it's 9 inches. Oh, good. That's right. I forgot I marked my ruler so that I could cut squares. So I marked it. So I have a 9-inch square on here. I'm going to go ahead and cut around this. I'm going to cut this one first, just in case. I just realized I could mess myself up. Okay, and I've got my bees in there. So now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to kind of carefully move this around. I'm going to cut my other direction here. So I've got a 9-inch square. Okay, so I'm going to carefully throw that away.
I might be jumping ahead here a little bit, but there was a question about it.
Okay.
With this project, you have to basically give up on the idea of controlling the direction of the nap.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Release that idea.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's right, because working with the nap is a lot like working with directional fabric. You and I talked about this recently. So if you were working with cotton fabrics that were directional, You don't use directional fabrics in half square triangles because it's really hard to keep track. You can't really, like you end up throwing half your half square triangles away. So this is definitely a place where you just give up on the idea of it. And like Tava was saying at the beginning, it actually is kind of helpful because you end up having a lot of texture, and that's both visual and physical texture because it does all these fun things. All right. So I'm going to show you one thing that I do to kind of keep track of it just a little after I cut this out. Okay. And I wrote these in the wrong place. So I'm going to go ahead and switch them so that I can cut them both the same because the cut has to go the same on both of them. Okay. Let me get my stuff out of the way. All right. And then I'll give this a shake. It's a little snow down there. I like it. Okay.
I'm not ready.
Not ready for the snow.
Nope. Can't make
Sorry.
me.
I'm gonna get it to snow on your feet just a little there. All right. So now I've got my pieces. So I have 2 pieces here with the interfacing and the marks. Okay. And this one is the non-printed interfacing that is also labeled. So now what I do is I'm going to take these and I put these together. So we know that both of these are 9 inches, like we were talking about at the beginning. They're not going to move because they've got the interfacing on the back. We know they're the same size. We're going to put them together and sew them together. So at this point, I can go ahead and I know I'm going to sew this here. When I split this, it's going to go like this. So this one, my nap is going to do this. So what I like to do is figure out how to get my nap to go the same way. So do you see my nap's going this way now?
Mm-hmm.
And then I flip back up. Not necessary, not even important, but it is what I do. So that makes it so that when my blocks finish, the naps are going the same way. Okay. So if you want more texture, make them go other ways. It's totally good. That's not something that you need to do. That's just one place that I'll get a little weird about it. All right. So then I'm going to pin it, and I pin it first at these corners, and I pin it right along the cut line because the cut line I'm not going to deal with right now. It's just a marking for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin here. And I will tell you that because the naps are going to go all sorts of different directions, it is sometimes a little bit easier if I lift this up off the table, get it to match, and then let it be. Otherwise, you could see, probably see here just a little bit how it wants to move off. And it's going to do that. Like it's going to want to shove different ways because the naps are going, this one is hanging over. It's going to do that. And so I've got all 4 corners stable, and I know that they're right. So I'm going to get this to be as flat as possible. Stab a couple down the middle. Try to get these to be where I want them to be. All right, and then I'm going to pin on the other side. Then I pin a bunch. Okay, because we want to hold these in place as I'm going. So I'm just going to pin along either side of these lines.
There's a running question about how many irons you have, and Jackie has the answer: the same amount of irons as you have sewing machines.
Maybe. I probably have more irons. I think I have probably 6. But a couple of them are travel irons, and one was my like travel while I work iron.
Okay,
yeah,
so we're going
a lot.
Straight stitch,
Mm-hmm.
bigger stitch length, so 3 by 3.
Yep. Okay, so you missed it because you were over there, so I'll do it again. So I took my pin that was stabbing out the end, and I took it and I turned it around so that I could put this under there and put my needle down.
And let's go over some basics.
So hold on.
Okay.
There we go. So now it's where I want it to be, and it's not going to go anywhere. So now I can take this first pin out and be okay. All right. So basics. I'm using the Mettler Metrocene thread today. So just my regular gray thread. Okay, no big deal. I've got an 9014 stretch needle in here. I just cleaned out my bobbin case today, so it should be beautiful, and hopefully it sews because I did clean it out, take it apart, and put it back together.
And what's that thing right there on the back?
And that is the digital dual feed on the Baby Lock Chorus that I'm using. So that is what is essentially the walking foot for this machine, and works very well has a belt on it that draws the fabric through. I will say it is much easier to do that with do all of this with a walking foot or with the digital dual feed. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna back stitch, and really I'm doing that because this is gonna get moved around. Oh, I'm stitching on the wrong line. I meant to do it over here. Sorry.
Nice catch, Judy.
Okay. So did she mention it?
Yep.
That's so funny. At the same time, I realized, like, wait, wrong line. Because I'm going to stitch down one side and then down the other. And now I forgot where my thought was, but here I am. Okay. So I'm just going to stitch. Oh, back stitching. So I want to back stitch here because this is going to get cut apart and moved around, and that seam is going to get some stress. And because we're only stitching at a 3mm stitch length, it's a lot more likely to kind of start coming apart. So I just go ahead and back stitch it. And then I'm just going to sew right along that line. And if I could see that my pin head, the flower head, is going to get in my way, I'll move it. But otherwise, I'm just going to sew right next to it. Be all right. Now it's going to be close. Oh, yeah. All right. Make my way across here. I'm going to leave this pin in until I absolutely have to take it out, which is going to be right there. Back stitch and clip it. Just flip it around and do the same thing. Oops, sorry. Okay.
Pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the metal, and you can see it'll just fly right through. And part of it is because you can sew a lot faster with the interfacing on the back because it's really stable. So it's actually a pretty quick project and makes it much easier to do with the interfacing. So if you've wanted to do a patchwork and been like, oh, but the fabric's going to move a bunch and blah, blah, blah. It's true. It would normally, but this product actually makes it really easy to do and to be able to create all sorts of fun things. Okay, so depending on your pattern, you're going to do a certain number of blocks in a certain number of color coordinations. Combinations. Combinations. There's the right word.
There's a word.
So we've got our half square triangles. How pretty is that? And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut along here. And I will say that I was glad I had this ruler. So this is the Quilters Select. It's a 2.5 by 18. Yeah. But the 12-inch, a 12-inch ruler stops here. So my 6 by 12 ruler was a pain because it almost got to the end, but not quite. So if you have a little bit longer ruler, an 18-inch is better for just cutting this in one fell swoop. Okay, so we just cut it on the solid lines. So solid lines are cutting lines, dotted lines are sewing lines. All right, cut that apart. And there we go.
Now you have two half square triangles.
Now we have half square triangles. Okay, so at this point, if you know anything about half square triangles, we can do all sorts of fun things with them and make them do all sorts of things. So we have a couple of them here that I wanted to show you that we already did. Now we've got 6, which isn't as great of a combination. So let's do the 4. Okay. So what I really like is that, so the middle of this pillow that we just did is this combination. And we did a bunch of this when we were, when I'd made it, and then we just played around with it. But you can do it like this. And then you can do it like this. And you can see how different that looks, which to me is fascinating. You can also do it this. Okay. All so interesting. And then let's see, then we'll do it this way. Is that how we made the stripes? Nope. Here we go. Then we can make stripes.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I think that one's super fun.
Just really interesting that it's just 4 blocks. And I think we figured out that there might be 16 combinations because you could do each of these 4 different ways and you'd get a different thing. Because you could make all of your lines go this way too.
Oh, I like that chevron, actually. The chevron's super fun.
So this way.
Oh, and then like a sort of a staggered chevron.
Well, you could, yeah, this one is just the stripes kind of going in a different way. And like, or I guess it would be diamonds that would be here. How did we get the chevron? I don't remember how the chevron goes.
Yeah. How about I leave that one there for a second? Try that. And,
oh, there we go.
And
then that one goes this way.
This way. There.
For sure. I'm going to turn it this way because it's easier than trying to redo it. So I will tell you, when you're playing with it, there we go. There's the chevron. Yeah, it's so interesting to me. I really love half square triangles in quilting, and that's totally what this is. So just fascinating to me. And playing with the nap, you get all of these different textures. I love the way that it works together. And really, I was going to say, my tip would be that when you're doing this is to lay it out, take a picture, look at it on the picture, see what you think about it, make some more changes, take another picture, then compare the pictures. For some reason, they will look different in photos than it does when you're just staring at it, like, especially if it's flat on the floor or on a table and you're like trying to get the bird's eye view of it. It's not quite the same, but taking a picture from above and then being able to see that picture is good. And then this one, just in the quilting world, this one didn't work out as well because of the, and you're gonna have to help me with the right words, the tones are too much the same. Like,
oh yeah, maybe
they're both kind of dark. So having it so that like this is a lot more vibrant and interesting because we've got a dark and a light. And that's sort of what this ends up doing, is you've got the dark and the light and the medium tones. So having kind of a mix of them is really helpful in getting it to do some fun things.
Our original idea was to have 4 colors on that block pattern, and that dark color was going to be,
so yeah, this was originally going to be this block here. And once I got it laid together, I was like, I don't like it. It's just too dark in the middle. And you could see from back there, you could see that like you couldn't tell any difference between those two,
right? Because
they were kind of, is it tone? Is that the right word?
Sure. Yes.
Value.
Definitely an appropriate word. Value.
But they were the same value. So you really couldn't, you can't really see that middle square very well, which, you know, if you're going to piece it, the thought is that you're going to be able to see how great that is. One of the things about this too, that, if you can kind of come in here and look at this, is that this doesn't match absolutely perfectly, which I'm actually, in the quilting world, this is something I get really fussy about. In this world, I don't care. I don't care. Look at it. The points look perfect.
So in cotton, you might be a little bit more particular.
In cotton, I would go back and fix some things. In cuddle, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fluff those edges, and none of these are fluffed except for the middle ones I fluffed. But like all of this, if you fluff all of that in there, it's totally going to, you know, hide away, and you won't even be able to tell your points.
What do you mean by fluff? Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Show me the tool.
All right. So we can do it over here.
Okay.
It'll be easier on this. So let me find one that's kind of gotten stuck. Okay. So in here, you can see that when you sew it, you end up getting some of the fibers that get tucked in there. And we can just come in here
with
my little ByAnnie stiletto, which I love. Okay. And that's what happens there. Let me see. And you can see, like, it's not super bad. It really depends on which way the nap is going. And sometimes they get caught and sometimes they don't really. Okay. But if I go in here, so this one is a little bit more. So see how this is really flat down there in the middle?
So this is where all of your forgiveness.
So this is where I fluff it. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to scratch up that seam. And then it's just totally gone. You can't see any flatness in there. It's all, you know, puffed up and looking beautiful.
Nice.
Okay. So it's super easy, and it really isn't like, don't try to get in here and like pull out a little bit at a time. I see people do that. I'm like, nah, just get in there and scratch it up.
And
totally fine.
I have actually done this because I kind of like this meticulous stuff. You don't have to be gentle.
No.
And what's great is that when you get those nap fibers out of the zigzag or out of the stitch, I mean, it doesn't loosen up the seam at all. So that's great.
Totally cool. And so these are the ones that I got the naps to, at least the lines to mark the same way. I can't tell you if it goes this way or this way on either one of these. I don't know. This is willow is what this is. And yeah, I don't think that matters at all. And honestly, mixing it up so that they go all the different ways doesn't matter either. I just have like a weird little obsession with that. In the middle, you can see where it really does go all the ways. So this one is this way, this way, this way, this way, and it's
Got
very fun. So you're always going to get a big mix up, and that's part of the joy of it. And the more textures you use, the better, because it's going to do different things depending on which fabrics you're using. So if you look at the pictures, and we should post those over on the I Love Cuddle page today, so you could see those all together and look at the patterns some more. But you can see that the patterns are going all sorts of different ways, and the texture just becomes very fun. And then it doesn't really matter. It all is going to work really well. One of the things that we talk about a lot is that you want to piece them together so that stretches with stretch and not stretches with not stretch sides. Because normally with Cuddle, the widthwise is super stretchy, and then the lengthwise does not have stretch. Okay, so when you're using the interfacing, it all of a sudden becomes nil. There's no difference between them. Okay, so at that point, it doesn't matter which way your nap is going, because really we keep track of the nap to keep track of the stretch most of the time. This one, it doesn't matter.
Do you dog ear your corners, or cut the corners off, or re-square anything?
You can. I did not re-square anything, and I've made a couple of them now. We did them when at the end of last year, after we were on the road. We ended the big road tour at Cali Quilt Co, and this was our project. The second day was doing this, and all of them that we worked with, you could cut them off, or you could just leave them, and it was fine. I would probably cut them off if I was doing a big quilt, because it'll start to get bulky, and then you just trim off that right at the end there. Okay, yeah, super duper easy.
Can we see the inside of that?
That's what I was going to say. Let's pull this open so you guys can see what it looks like, because I didn't
This
trim any of this. Also,
pillow is bigger than your whole table.
It kind of is. It's large. Okay, it ends up being, I think, 36 by 36. I can't remember. And it is king size pillows in there. I used Zipper by the Yard from ByAnnie for this. So that was super easy to do. In our pet bed tutorial from a couple months ago, we talked more about putting a zipper in. I'll tell you just really quickly. I serged the edge. I used the basting tape. I stitched it down. I stitched it once more to get it a little bit closer. And that's how I did the zipper. Super easy. Okay, and then here's the pillows.
Tava says she cuts the dog ears off after it's all built.
Got it. Yeah, and it'll just create a little bit of extra bulk in there if you leave the dog. Oh, I forgot. You can't see it because you add muslin. I didn't have any muslin, and I had nice quilting cotton. So
I'm going to say that's a really pretty fabric. It doesn't have anything to do with that.
It doesn't.
No.
I needed a bit. No, it doesn't match at all. It's kind of like muslin because it was just extra fabric. I forgot. So you can't see the inside of it. Dang it. But yeah, if I feel it, I really like, even where this all come together here, it's not really here. You feel it. It's not all big and bulky.
No,
like you can feel it.
It's certainly not going to be uncomfortable to lay your head on it or something.
No, not at all. No, super, super fine. So yes, that is one thing that I forgot about that. I'm glad we opened it up, guys. You cut a piece of fabric that's the size of the patchwork for the pillow. And Tava can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of it, one, it gives it some stability because it makes it stay that size and doesn't put all the stress on the seams. So when like kids bounce on it, the stress is really on here to stop the stretching, which it isn't going to pull. There's nothing to break in here. Does that make sense? Like the seams will actually put the stress on the seams if you didn't have something behind it. So that will help. And it does keep it all to the right size. She has a clever way of doing the zipper part. And like you said, you could do the Velcro or the zipper. And then I went ahead and stitched it all the way around. And I had zigzagged my top to the muslin and then sewed it together. So when you put this all together, you use the interfacing for that. So everything is interfaced so that it's really stable.
Oh, you interface the whole back, even though the back is plain.
Right.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because it makes it not stretch. So that's part of it, is that it gives it more stability when you're working with it. Okay. I'm just going to take that out because now it's weird with one pillow in it. And try to get two pillows in was a little.
We're not going to watch you wrestle that octopus right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So this is how big it is. When we made it the other day, Hawk and I were talking about, like, I can imagine being a little kid and being so excited to like plonk this on in front of the TV and watch something. So I think it's a great size for kids, and it's a great size for all sorts of things. But it is a really good practice size too if you want to put together a quilt, because you start to see how it works, how the instructions work, how the interfacing works, all of that good stuff. This becomes totally machine washable. Using the pillows inside makes it easy to pull out. Throw this in the washing machine, dryer, wash it on cold, no heat, or low heat in the dryer. No fabric softeners.
Does that
And
mean
you'll
you
be
should
golden.
pre-shrink your lining fabric on the pillow?
I wouldn't care unless I were using muslin, and then I would shrink it, because that is not quilt shop quality cotton, which is what I used on the inside of this. So yeah, if you were going to use something else, I would, like muslin, I would pre-wash that first, just so that all the shrink is out of it. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, any other questions we have to answer? That was great. I'm like, that was such an easy project because I just showed you a little bit. It is super easy. Just take your time with it. And really the fun part for me was moving things around and trying to come up with a new block. I showed you this, and this will let you really play with it. And each of the patterns comes with this sheet in there that has it for the project that it is. That said, once you figure this out, you can get as creative as you want with the printed interfacing and just do as many blocks in all sorts of different, incarnations as you want. I think there's maybe about a dozen patterns that she's got for both the pillow size and the quilt size, but really the possibilities with half square triangles are kind of endless. Throw in some solid squares and you've got, 8 billion different pillow patterns. So all right, is there anything else that we need to address in there?
No, I think we're good. There were certainly some questions, and I see Tavis popped in and is getting some of those answered.
Good.
They're more like some shopping questions, and some questions about what to do when you move up to the quilt from the pillow. But I feel like we're good.
With the quilt, I know when we did it last year in the class, a lot of people, and I think that they did it at the Camp Cuddle too, is that they finished it as a self-binding blanket. So they actually just put a backing on it and then self-bound it. And that would be easy enough. This is also, when you get it to that size, you can absolutely take it to your long arm or a long armor and have them quilt it. And I know we have quite a few quilts in the office in Los Angeles, and you've probably seen them on the wall in Julie's videos on the first Tuesdays of the month. There's like a gray and black one that hangs on the wall, and it's made like this with the interfacing back. Put it together however you want it, take it to a long armor, they'll quilt it up for you. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. So any way you want to finish that is beautiful. And there's, like I said, just a ton of variations. Those patterns, what did she say that they went to? She said, and I can't remember now. But you can literally make them any size you want. So if you want to make them longer to fit a bed, do that. Yeah, possibilities are endless, and you can totally mix in rectangles and squares. And
if you were really adventurous and wanted and had your own paper piecing pattern, you could use the plain interfacing too, couldn't you?
Yes.
And go nuts.
It's basically how we've done paper pieced patterns with it before, is that I will trace out the pattern on the interfacing, iron that to the back of the fabric, cut it out with a seam allowance, and then piece it together. So all of the quilt making stuff that you have seen and love to do, you can also do in Cuddle. I will say 9-inch blocks, easy to do. I probably wouldn't do 2.5-inch squares with this. I've done it a couple times, and I will say it's not one I would highly recommend. You can absolutely do it, and it does make it much easier to do with the interfacing. So totally possible, just a lot of time, that's all. We did when we were first there, one of the first classes I did with Tava, we did the snowflake pillow, and we did those with half square triangles. And I think they were 2.5-inch squares. They just take a long time. That's all. So the big 9-inch squares are way better, in my opinion, for that much fun.
It's bold.
Okay. It's bold. It's lovely. All right. So trying to think of what I needed to tell you guys. We are coming up next week. We're doing the rustic horseshoe horse.
The ride-on horse.
Ride-on
oh,
toy.
How exciting.
So this is pretty exciting.
Little hobby horse.
Little hobby horse. And that'll be really fun. So we're going to talk about doing those ride-on toys. So we'll go over some of the basics next week. And then the week after that, we're going to come back. So it'll be a 2-weeker where we're going to talk on ride-on toys and the classic.
It's the classic.
Okay, the classic ride-on toy, the classic horse ride-on toy, I think is what it's called. That's what we'll be putting together over the next couple of weeks. And that pattern, like I said, is from Rustic Horseshoe, and you can find that at more quilt shops now. So you can do a little Google search and find them, or go visit rustichorseshoe.com. I think that's the website that she has. So that'll be next week. There are classes that are coming up. I've got one here in town. If you're local to Kansas City, I'll be teaching at Casey Maker next week and doing a cloud cuddle class. So that's super fun. And you can always go to our website, shannonfabrics.com, scroll down to the bottom, and you can find the classes. And there are virtual classes, so Zoom classes, as well as in-person classes. And it's a great way to kind of just keep track of what's happening. You might be surprised, but we are having classes all the time. So if you're a shop, we are totally doing education and coming out to your shops and teaching. And if you are a consumer, it's a great way to get it kind of more hands-on, even if it's via Zoom. It's much, it's just a great way of being able to learn how to work with cuddle fabrics. So, so the classes, try to think if there's anything else. Join I Love Cuddle, because we love you there, and it's a super fun group. It's really, I love cuddle.
You're welcome, Tava. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it a lot. Is there anything else we need to tell them before we announce a winner?
I think let's do winners.
Okay, let's do winners. Let's see if we can get a couple of winners. We get one from Facebook and one from YouTube. So we've got Kimberly Adema on YouTube and Linda Colby on Facebook. So Kimberly and Linda, if you can email us at info@shannonfabrics.com, send us your mailing address and your phone number, and then we will get back with you and we will send you a some fabric that you can make one of the projects with, and Tava will send you the project bag that has the patterns and the interfacing and all of that good stuff, so that you can get started on making one of these block barn designs, pillows, or quilts yourself. So I'm excited to see how that goes. Remember that she's got a sale going. You can go check it out, try out the product, see what you think. I really do think that it kind of just opens up some new ideas of what we can do. I just realized that you could actually just do 4 of these to start with and make yourself a little throw pillow, and it would end up being like an 18-inch throw pillow. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Just
yeah,
like
totally.
A little one for your couch if you were like, how do I do this? That would be
And they make that 18-inch square pillow blank.
They do make an 18-inch square pillow like insert, so you could totally do that. All right, all the ideas. I'm just full of them today. So we'll be back next week, and like I said, it'll be a 2-weeker. So we will do the Rustic Horseshoe ride-on toy for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back, and it will be December already, and I can't even believe it. So I hope to see you next week. Until then, happy sewing.